Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
Welcome to another edition of Freed on Business. We're rebuilding the Freed on Business studios to bring you a better podcast. So we're doing this out of a remote location today. So sorry for the backdrop being so woody and perfect and mellow, but that's what we've got today. I want to thank our sponsors at Warren Henry. As always, we're going to talk a little bit about them during today's show, because today's show is about customer acquisition and customer retention. It's the most difficult thing to do, the most important thing to do, the most costly thing to do. And once you get a client, you better make sure that you keep that client happy and keep them coming back. Because like I said, the cost of customer acquisition is extraordinarily high, and it's very difficult. So let's talk about that for a minute. Again, I want to thank our friends at Warren Henry for being a sponsor for close to 15 years at this point. Thank you to Larry. I was just up at the store. I saw Sebastian and Ismet and Gerald. We're going to talk a little bit about what all that meant to me, because I'm their customer and they acquired me. So we're going to talk about what that meant, and they're a great example of customer satisfaction. So on with the show. Customer acquisition can be very difficult. I make cold calls. It's, I never really usually do this, but I'll mark today's show. It's August, late August this year, starting in about January. Since then, I've made well over 700, 800 cold calls, probably gotten about 100, 150 people on the phone. Of those 100, 150 people, I probably converted 5 to 7 to be actual leads and real business relationships. I think that's an amazingly strong hit rate, just for the record. When I went and bought unanchored strip shopping centers, I actually called 1,000 people and bought 10. I thought that was a great record, a great percentage of hit rate. So it's very difficult and very costly in both a time and energy and financial standpoint to acquire a new customer and a new client. So once you do that, you've got to keep them. It's imperative that you keep them. So the first thing I do is I make a very broad dive on the potential customer. I look them up on LinkedIn. I look them up on the internet. I Google them. I find out everything I possibly can, both public and private, about the potential person or company. And then I reach out to that person or company. And it's not that easy to identify the person. It's tough to figure out who the actual customer or decision maker is. I work with one family office. The founder tells me something, then they watch in the background while I work with the line people at the family office. It seems that they have divergent goals, which is not surprising. The founder wants to maintain their equity, and the people on the line, in their line, typically just want to retain their jobs. They think that they can do that by simply maintaining the capital for the person that they work for, but it's so much more complicated than that. Sometimes you have to go around a person in the company to find the real decision maker. And sometimes you'll be talking to somebody for months and they won't be the decision maker. So the first thing I do is I ask people about what the decision process is at their organization, so I make sure I have the right person. And I ask whoever I'm speaking with, if they're not the right person, please help me understand the process and help me meet the decision maker. And then it could take years to build the relationship with the decision maker. And don't think you're the only one. They get calls all day long. They get e-blasts. Last week, the heck with it, yesterday, I must have gotten 3 to 5 e-blasts just pitching me on private lending, because that's the only thing that can be done right now in the marketplace, basically. That's why we've been talking so much about private lending and why I've been pitching my private lending program. I think it's important to mention here, the same thing that makes that different from all the other private lending programs is what you need to do when you're looking to seek out and retain a customer. People do business with people they like. Thank you to Bruce Turkel At this point, I'd like to encourage everybody to go look at my prior podcasts and interviews with Bruce Turkel. The guy is right on about customer identification and customer recognition. By the way, Mr. Mendoza, I'd like to see if we could get Bruce Turkel back on the show. Certainly before the end of the year for our annual, what was this year, and what do we do for positioning for next year? Bruce is a savant in this particular space. He talks about contacting people on a regular basis, about making sure that you repeat your message over and over, that you realize that they're not going to get the message the first, second, third, fourth, or probably even the 10th time. And so you have to repeat it over and over again. And you have to treat them like gold. You have to make sure that they realize that it's all about them. And you have to remember that it's all about them, just the way that every second of this podcast, I'm remembering that it's all about you. This podcast isn't for me. This podcast is for you. So, we talked about how you make people like you, that it's all about them. Another tip that I've picked up in business that's reinforced every time I speak to Bruce Turkel is you need to be authentic and you need to be transparent. That is extraordinarily difficult to do. I would even say that is counter to human nature. Most people will not be authentic and they won't be transparent because they're afraid. A couple of weeks ago, we did a whole podcast on fighting fear. I actually got a former astronaut. No, this isn't an astronaut. Guy worked at NASA, LinkedIn with me because that guy and his team fought fear every day. With them, it was a life or death decision every day. With us, it's just business. So you have to be authentic and you have to be transparent. The other thing you need to do is you need to know what it is they want. Nobody is going to tell you what they want. You're not going to read it in the paper. You're not going to see it on a balloon. You're not going to see it on a sign. They're not going to whisper it in your ear unless you ask them. Simple blocking and tackling. Find out who the decision maker is. Get them to trust you by being open and transparent and honorable. And then ask them what they want. And if you cannot help them, say, that's really interesting. I'm sorry, I really can't help you with that. But if I find somebody who can, I'll put you in touch with them. Or you say, I can really help you. Here's how I can help you. Could we please work together? Can you just give me a shot? Now, I'll recommend a book here. It's a book that Harvey Weidenfeld gave me when I started at Sonnenblit Goldman. It's called Winning Through Intimidation. And it's not about being stronger or powerful or more assertive or aggressive or angrier than the other person. It's about getting control of a transaction so that when you talk to other people, you can say, look, I have control. When you talk to me, you're not wasting your time. Because not only is the acquisition of the client important, but the acquisition of the other side of the transaction, relationship with the lender or investor or service provider is also important. When you're the middleman, the middle person, the broker, you have to be aware of everybody's goals and needs and wants. So it's not that easy to keep everybody moving. And then you have to provide excellent service. That's the baseline. Everybody is going to provide excellent service. If you don't, the next person will. And then you need to follow up. Follow up is something they specialize in at Warren Henry. When I took my car to get it serviced, Luan calls me. She calls me 6 months in advance. I have an appointment. She's tremendous. She personally knows me and asks how my family's doing by name. The woman is a monster. Of course, they were trained and guided by Larry. Larry sets the tone over there. Ismet, the sales manager, who I've known for 20-something years, since his whole family and everything else, make sure that my wife and I and my mother and anybody I send there feels great. I actually sent them a young person that I met the other day to see if they were appropriate to be a member of the Warren Henry family. Just a side note here, you can make six-figure income with benefits at the Warren Henry family, and you'll stay there for life if you're smart. I don't see why you need to go to college unless you want to. Then I also touch base on LinkedIn, email, texts, phone calls. I touch base. This podcast e-blast goes to people once a week. Usually I also send them once a week an outline of the programs that we offer from a lending basis. And in that way, I remain top of mind in a professional and kind way, not too intrusive. I've actually cut back the emails. I used to send 2. Now I only send 1. Why? Because it bothers me when I get too many emails. And I don't want to bother anybody. But I just want to say, hey, this is what we're talking about. If you're interested, take a look at noon or follow up on one of the other shows. And in fact, Mr. Mendoza, maybe on the future flyers, we should put links to the other shows and talk about what they would be. Remind me that we should talk to Rebecca about that. And, I talked to Rebecca Carlson the other day. She retains me as a client by keeping in touch and always being a great service provider, bringing positive energy and happiness whenever I call her, and she solves problems for me. And now over the years, we've built a relationship professionally. And I guess it's been like 5 years. And Mr. Mendoza, I've never even met her in person. Never. She's so wonderful, though. Always friendly and helpful. They make sure, so going back to Warren Henry as the example, they make sure that if I have any problem, they're going to take care of it 3 times over. And when I'm done, they make sure that I'm happy and I'm satisfied. Then I pay them back by going online and giving them great recommendations and great votes of confidence and doing a little e-blast about them and stuff. And they respond in kind. And this is something that's gone on for decades. So stick with me. We're going to come back with the last word right after this message from Warren Henry. I want to thank my friends at Warren Henry. They've been a sponsor on the show for, I don't know, a long time now, 12, 13 years. We're now on episode 783, and it's all because of them. I want to thank our friends at Warren Henry. I want to also remind you that they have stores up on 151st and Biscayne, where they sell Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, Jaguar, and now Lincoln. They're building out their new Lincoln store and their new Lincoln service line. It should be ready really soon. In Gainesville, they sell Audis. Down in the Keys, they sell everything, all their great nameplates. South Dade, their award-winning Land Rover Range Rover store in Weston or West Broward. They sell another Land Rover Range Rover store. All great cars, all great service. They all come with the great Warren Henry advantage. We've been talking about the advantage here on the show, which is beyond a whole bunch of services. It's about being a member of the Warren Henry family. So join me, my beautiful wife, Vivian, my mom, lots and lots of our customers. We go there because they've retained us by giving us the great Warren Henry advantage of feeling like a family, always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. Time for the last word. The last word this week is the same as the first word. It's all about them. I want to thank my mentor in customer service and customer retention and personal branding, Bruce Turkel. We'll have Bruce Turkel again on a show coming up in the near future. But Bruce has all kinds of books out there. Just Google Bruce Turkel. Go on Amazon. He's got lots of great books. I follow a lot of his tenants. And it's just the most important thing is to always think about things the way that the other person would think about them. It'll be difficult for you to put yourself in their place, but try. It'll be very effective and very helpful for you. I want to thank, of course, our sponsors at Warren Henry. I want to thank our friends at the University of Florida, Center for Real Estate Studies. And now I'm going to thank the finance program up there for my 2 interns that are wonderful, Hayden, Noah, and Lorenzo, my 2 interns. And I want to thank you for watching and listening. Remember, the person who wants to do something finds a way. The other finds an excuse. Now go out there and make it happen. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Mr. Mendoza, do your magic.